Good evening, Goth Gamer Nation and Goth Hunters, and welcome to Darkened Streams, wherein I review every one of the 327 episodes of Supernatural, or however many I can take before blowing my head off. What did we learn in the last episode? You gotta find your own fun on the road. The systematic tracking down and murdering of creatures you will never take the time to understand, much less rehabilitate, doesn't have to be a grave, joyless act. Also, be careful what you put on the internet, whether it's the story of a ghost that creates a violent thought projection, or a tweet that you'll regret in the morning. Season 1, episode 18, entitled Something Wicked, was, just like the previous episode, written and directed by two first-time, last-time Supernatural collaborators. This time our writer is Daniel Nauf, who is probably most known as the creator of the ill-fated HBO series Carnival, a Depression-era Twin Peaks-like that followed disparate characters along a traveling carnival, a series that was critically lauded during its first season and even won 5 Emmys, but didn't fare as well during its second, causing HBO to pull the plug on a planned 6 seasons. Show business! One year you're on top of the world, the next you're writing for Supernatural. Directing this time is Whitney Rancic, who seems to have previously directed several short-lived, generic-looking procedurals I've never heard of in my goddamn life. I appreciate the grind, but I don't think I'm gonna be revisiting Cracker anytime soon. In the cold open, a little girl named Bethany is being put to bed, but is kept up by a tree branch knocking against her window. She gets up to close the window, but when she returns to bed, a creature with a glowing mouth waits for her. On the trail of some coordinates sent to them by their father, Sam and Dean head to Fitchburg, Wisconsin. Wait. Guys, you're gonna have to decide on one way to spell it. Having no clue why they are there other than there must be something to hunt, they start asking around if there are any spooky doings in town. Sam notices that despite school being out, there's only one mother and child at the local park. Something I wouldn't have noticed in a million years, but I guess that's weird. Small town America. Does it get any better than this? Oh, right next to Lucky Looney's, eh? Dean strikes up a conversation with the mother and learns that many children in town have become severely ill and in need of hospitalization. There have been enough cases that most parents are paranoid about letting their kids commingle after school. This nameless mother is played by Erica Carroll, and weirdly enough, this is not the first or last time she would appear on Supernatural. She played a receptionist not 6 episodes ago, and starting in season 9, plays the recurring character Hannah for a handful of seasons. Also making a repeat appearance is the Riverview Hospital, making its 5th or 6th appearance now. It's shown up in episodes like Scarecrow and Bloody Mary. I mean, I think it's safe to assume if there is a hospital in the episode, it's gonna be Riverview. The boys head to the hospital to learn more about this illness from their pediatrics ward. On the way, Dean peeks into a room to see a scary old lady with an inverted cross on the wall, but assuming it's irrelevant, moves on. They pose as members of the Center for Disease Control and talk to Dr. Heidecker, who explains that the children have been unaffected by antibiotics and their immune system seems to be shutting down. These symptoms also mysteriously seem to work through bloodlines, infecting all children in a particular family. Unable to question any of the children due to them all being unconscious, they question Bethany's father, who has no idea how his daughters became ill, theorizing it had something to do with them catching pneumonia from sleeping with their window open. The boys have nothing pointing to this being their kind of thing, but Dean reminds Sam that their father wouldn't have sent them here for nothing. Assuming that Bethany's father would be at the hospital for a good while, they decide to snoop around their house. Would it not be weird if 2 babyface CDC representatives asked the nurse, "Excuse me, where does this specific little girl live? I'm not interested in the others, but I would like to know where she lives. Can you give me that information?" Well, I guess I could. Who did you say you were? I'm a guy that wants to know where this child lives. Well, maybe they don't have to say it quite like that, but you get the idea. At Bethany's, they find a handprint on her windowsill made out of rotted wood. Dean takes a look at it, and we get a childhood flashback where their father prepares to go on a hunt, leaving young Dean with a loaded shotgun and instructions to look after Sam, who stares dead-eyed into an episode of Thundercats. I like how they give you a shot of young Sam to establish it's him, as if you see another kid and guess, oh, that must be Sam.
Most important,
watch out for Sammy.
Aye. Later, Dean explains that what they're on the trail of is a striga, a type of witch creature that their father failed to successfully hunt 17 years ago. Sam has a ton of questions about this creature and their father's inability to kill it, but Dean seems increasingly dodgy the more he tries to pry. Dean meets the motel owner's very punchable son, Michael.
King or two queens?
Two queens.
Yeah, I bet.
And his little brother, triggering further flashbacks. This isn't the first time they have a Lost-style flashback B-plot, but it is one of the better ones because it uses it to address a fundamental part of Dean. We come to better understand his unquestioning obedience to his father and his overprotective treatment of Sam. We also learn how whiny Sam was even as a child.
I want Lucky Charms. Still more Lucky Charms. I saw the box.
But I made you SpaghettiOs! Damn it! I'm a little boy! Later in their motel room, Sam looks up strigas and learns that they drain people of their spiritus vitae, or life force, and prefer to prey on children. Though the website claims that there is no known weapon that can kill a striga, Dean corrects this by claiming that when it's feeding, it's vulnerable to consecrated wrought iron. Supernatural's interpretation of this creature bears little resemblance to the myth it originated from, even mistaking its country of origin as Albania and not Poland, though it's likely multiple Eastern European countries share similar bits of folklore. I do love how charmingly generic all the websites look in this show. I think I just miss websites. Sam feels increasingly out of the loop the more tidbits Dean seems to remember about this thing, but Dean keeps brushing it off even though he seems visibly rattled by all this. Finding the striga may be an ordeal because it can disguise itself when it's not hunting, usually as someone unassuming, like an old woman perhaps. Dean remembers the old woman from the hospital and they both head back to check on her. Alright, Dean. We're not LFG Big Dick Tank right now. This is kind of a stealth mission. The old lady, despite looking creepy, seems to be just a regular, creepy, insane old lady and not relevant to the hunt at all. When they return to the motel, they notice that Michael is sitting outside without his little brother. Turns out he seems to have fallen ill, much like the rest of the children in town. It becomes more and more apparent that Dean is more so than usual emotionally invested in this hunt, and Jensen plays this really well.
We're gonna kill this thing. I want it dead, you hear me?
You know he has personal reasons for his behavior, and while Sam can find humor in this situation, Dean is just a coiled cobra for the rest of the episode. The purpose of this next scene, in which Sam goes to the library to look at newspaper records, is to tell you that the striga has been doing this across the US since the 1800s, moving from town to town, killing a handful of children, and then setting up shop somewhere else, which is really grave and serious, but then they do this.
Before that, there was Ogdenville. Before that, North Haverbrook and Brockway.
I've sold monorails to Brockway, Ogdenville, and North Haverbrook, and by gum, it put them on the map.
And it's like, I know what that means, but okay. While on the phone with Dean, Sam finds a photo from one of the earliest articles, and it appears to show Dr. Heidecker, who hasn't aged a day. It's fucking insane that motorcycles are allowed to exist, meaning he's likely the striga's disguise. Yeah, I don't think you're allowed to touch the kids like that. I feel like that should be a rule. Mom, you want to jump in here? No? Alright. Back at the motel, Sam and Dean have one of the most useless arguments in the entire series. Dean rightfully suggests that since the striga works through families, it will be coming after Michael next, so all they have to do is use him as bait and then fill it full of iron when it shows up. Sam is against this plan for some reason. Like, he doesn't want to put Michael in harm's way, but it's either this or innumerable children die in perpetuity for years and years because you don't have the heart to possibly endanger one child. What's your bright idea, Sam? Why don't you tell Twitter how gutted you are? Dean finally explains why he needs this to be over. 17 years ago, he was instructed to watch Sam while his father went out hunting. One night, he got bored and left Sam while he was sleeping to go play arcade games, and returned to find Emperor Palpatine looming over Sam's bed. And when the time came to protect him, he choked, missing the window to kill the striga, which their father managed to only scare off. His failure to do what his father told him, leaving a scar that he's carried into adulthood.
He looked at me different, you know? Which was worse. Not that I blamed him. You gave me an order and I didn't listen.
Very cool fathering. You'll love to see it. Definitely want to watch the show about this guy that did that to this child. I always wondered, was it a coincidence that John showed up right in time to stop it? Or was the whole reason he left his kids to fend for themselves because he was using them as bait? He was hunting a child-devouring monster, so he decided to bring his kids with him. Dean even said he was so pissed afterwards that he dropped them off at Pastor Jim's, so he had babysitting options. I'm just saying, the line between abusive dad and 70s dad, pretty slim. The two are put in the difficult position of having to explain to a child that monsters exist and they need his help in stopping one. It takes some convincing, but they get through to him and successfully bait the striga and make extra sure it's dead. I think Something Wicked is a bit of a messy episode, showcasing some ideas that are really interesting and heartfelt. I think the exploration of Dean's character is conceptually powerful, maybe not handled all that well, but I like that on repeat watch, you really understand every initially strange move Dean makes during the hunt. You know, overcompensating when he first thinks he's got the thing cornered, making sure Michael knew it wasn't his fault when his brother got sick.
It's my job to look after him.
Angrily wishing it dead, refusing to let Sam in on his failure.
This isn't about you, Sam. All right, I'm the one that screwed up.
And generally being a humorless wreck the moment they learn what they're hunting. You can tell this is a thing he needs to finish to atone for this guilt implanted by his father. The conversation they sign off with is also potentially very powerful. Sam makes a comment that Michael can never be the same now that he knows what's out there, and he wishes even he could have the innocence that he lost.
If it means anything, sometimes I wish you could too.
Ozzy, will you shut up? I'm trying to have a moment here. The first act stumbles a bit and its tone is kind of all over the place, and I don't know if I'm supposed to take this creature seriously, but there is something so fucking funny with how it dies. And the goofy special effect they use on people's faces as their souls are being sucked out, which is something I don't like criticizing. Like, it's always better when this show takes a chance on a visual effect or a goofy rubber costume. We are rapidly approaching a future where I'm gonna miss the heck out of this child-eating shithead. You know what the worst thing about this episode is, though? There's nobody from the X-Files, so I can only talk about Supernatural. Well, like, there's this nurse. She's in season 3, episode 24, and credited as woman number 1. But I mean, I could barely even feel that.
I'm not using this ID. Why not? Because it says Bikini Inspector on it.
You gave me an order and I didn't listen. I almost got you killed.
You were just a kid.
Don't.
I've really given you a lot of crap for always following Dad's orders. But I know why you do it.
Oh God, kill me now.